Welcome to Punchline Talks Politics. My name is Mark Owen, and today my special guest is Alex McIntyre. He's the parliamentary candidate for the Labour Party for Gloucester. Hi, Alex. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, we all know that politics is a dirty game in some streets and things like that. Welcome to Gloucester. Why are you standing, sir?
Sure. Well, it might interest you to know, I never really wanted to be a politician, if I'm perfectly honest. But I've had a look at the country, 14 years of this Conservative government, and we're desperate for a change. And I always thought the politics was, just for people who'd gone to Eton, gone to Oxford, perhaps a bit like our current MP, and not for people like myself. I grew up in a working class house in Yorkshire, first my family to go to university. But we need a change. We need more normal people down in Parliament, and so I put myself forward for it, and I was selected by local Gloucester residents to represent the Labour Party at the next general election in Gloucester.
But you're not a Gloucester guy, are you? You live in Cam at the moment.
Sure, yeah, no, I live in Cam, and I've been quite open about that. I think it's important that people know who's standing to represent them. So I've been very open about the fact I live in Cam near Dursley, and that's part of the reason why, Mark, is because I didn't want to be a politician. I moved out to Gloucestershire to start a family. My wife's from Thornbury originally. Her mum and her brother still live there, and we wanted to raise our family amongst family. And as I love my mother-in-law dearly, I really do, but a 20-minute distance up the A38 from Thornbury was a healthy one. And we moved here a number of years ago now. And I've promised if I'm elected, I will be moving to Gloucester. We would have done that already, but we had our little boy in October. I didn't think it was fair on my wife to move her with a young baby into Gloucester. At that time, but as soon as if we're elected later this year, then we'll be moving into Gloucester because it's important that people have access to their MP. But I think it's I might not live in Gloucester. My wife will tell you I live in Gloucester because that's where I spend the most of my time. But I might not live there now. But my services are your services. When my little boy spent his first night on this earth in Gloucester Royal Hospital, it was the doctors and nurses at Gloucester Royal who cared for my wife when she needed surgery after the little boy was born. It's where I had, when I had a cancer scare last year where I got treated. I'm a season ticket holder at Gloucester Rugby. I'm a season ticket holder at Gloucester Football, and a part owner now is through the Supporters Trust. I got an email a couple of weeks ago, although sadly they got relegated this week. So, my life is intrinsically linked with Gloucester, and even if I live 15 minutes down the A38, and I know the Conservative Party are pushing that I don't live in Gloucester, and I'm honest about it. I don't, but I will be if I'm elected.
That's okay. That's okay. So what do you actually do, Alex? Let's have a little bit more about you. I think you're
Sure.
a solicitor, aren't you? And you
I
work
am, yeah.
in.
So I'm a solicitor. I work from home. I've worked from home for a number of years. The firm I work for have offices all over the country, and I represent a wide range of clients, but a lot of my work is for NHS trusts. I advise NHS trusts on HR issues and disputes, and usually when those interlink with kind of clinical issues as well. So I've
Okay.
been doing that for a number of years. I'm the first in my family to go to university, as I said, and I went off to do law at Nottingham, and I've lived around the country a little bit, but now, as I said, solicitor working from home in Cam.
So if you got elected, then what would you like to see different? What would be your first day? As the
Sure.
MP? I mean, because there's no money about. Let's be honest about it, and that's the big thing. And to be fair to the current government, there has been a lot of levelling up money for the city over the last 10, 12, 15 years. It's nearly £1 billion has been spent. So what can the Labour Party offer the citizens of Gloucester and a view of the
Sure.
MP?
Well, I think there's two parts to that. I think, yes, we have seen some levelling up funding coming into Gloucester itself. And, it's welcome. It's always welcome to see investment in the city. I don't think the government should necessarily be congratulated on handing back pennies out of the pounds they've cut from local government budgets, because actually, if you look at the overall settlement, we're still a lot worse off. And I think if you ask people on the streets in Gloucester, and we go out every day speaking to residents, we've spoken to more than 20,000 Gloucester residents since I was selected. They don't feel as if they have seen levelling up in our city. They don't feel like they're benefiting from it. And we can come on to a few of the reasons why, perhaps in this interview. So I don't think we've necessarily seen the kind of the record levels that the government would like us to see. But in terms of what we're prioritising, I've got kind of five main priorities. Obviously, Labour have set out its five national missions. How do those apply to Gloucester? Well, I've got five priorities. The first is tackling the cost of living. The Conservatives might want to tell us it's all over, everyone's feeling better off. They're not. People aren't feeling better off. They're seeing their mortgages go up, their rents going up, their energy bills going up, the council tax bills going up. We've got to try and put more money into people's pockets. And we've set out a plan how we're going to bring down energy bills by switching on Great British Energy with cheap renewable energy that's made here and generated here in the UK. We're going to insulate older homes. We're going to bring down rents and introduce a fair deal for renters. So cost of living has got to be our number one priority. The second is about our NHS. We know everyone, I think, in the city knows someone who is languishing on an NHS waiting list. And if they don't know someone on a waiting list, they've had the experience of phoning the GP at 8 o'clock in the morning and having to see the lottery of whether they might get an appointment that day and whether they might be able to see them in person. And if they haven't been trying to see their GP, they all will definitely been trying to see an NHS dentist, and there aren't really any accepting new patients in Gloucester. So we've got to get our NHS back on its feet. We've promised 2 million more NHS appointments, 700,000 more dentist appointments, and I'm really keen to make sure we're seeing more NHS dentists here in Gloucester, and that we see the waiting list come down at Gloucestershire Royal Hospital, so we don't see those queues of ambulances outside of the hospital that seem to be a
But,
regular occurrence.
but Alex, where's the money going to come from for all this? That's the big thing. So you can't just magic these doctors and these dentists out of thin air, you know.
No, sure.
Uh,
And that's completely understood. And everything that we will be putting in our manifesto is going to be fully costed and fully funded, because it's really important that people know that they can trust an incoming Labour government with their money.
but we
Now,
have been waiting. Look, we have been sorry to stop you, but we have been
mm,
waiting for a long time for Keir Starmer's plans, you know, and he keeps it very close to his chest what the manifesto actually is.
well, I don't think that's necessarily true, Mark. So on our website, and it's publicly available, everyone can see it. There are five briefings for each of the national missions, and they go to about 30 pages each, and they set out clearly what the first steps are for each of our national missions, where their money will be coming from, and what our priorities are for a decade of national renewal. Now, of course, we can't set out all of the detail in a manifesto because we don't know when the general election is going to be. Now, if Rishi Sunak wanted to call a general election on the 2nd of May, we'd have a manifesto and we'd set out how we're going to fund it. He's obviously bottled that. He came to Gloucester to bottle that, just as he bottled the pass he got on when he was visiting King's Home. But we know we need a general election, and once that general election is called, we'll set it out in the proper way. Because what people don't want is back of a cigarette packet calculations that don't add up. And what we've promised is, unlike this current government, who've made 45 billion of unfunded tax cuts that crashed the economy under Liz Truss, and now a 46 billion pound promise to scrap national insurance without any plans on how how they're going to fund that at all. We won't make any commitments that aren't properly funded and properly costed. Now, on the NHS, it's quite an interesting one that you raised, because obviously we'd set out initially that our plans for that were going to be funded by scrapping the non-dom tax status. Now, the Conservatives have taken our policy, and we're delighted. We're always pleased if they want to take our policy ideas, because it shows that we've got the great ideas that are pushing the country forward. Obviously, their plan isn't quite as tight as ours. They are going to allow lots of wealthy individuals off to the tune of about 250 million pounds a year. But they've obviously taken that plan. So we are going away. We're looking at the numbers again, and when the election is called, we will have a policy on how that's going to be funded. But obviously, when that is announced, it's up to Rachel Reeves, and she won't thank me if I come onto your show and make any announcements, obviously, ahead of that. But I think it's really important that residents in Gloucester know that everything will be fully funded and fully paid for, because there are difficult decisions ahead that we will inherit. If we are lucky enough to form the next government, we will have the worst inheritance of any government since the war. Taxes are at record highs, the debt is at a record high. We've already got spending black holes in the commitments the government have made. We know there are going to be really difficult decisions to take. Now, obviously, our first mission is to get the country growing again, get the economy growing again, because that is going to be vital to being able to spend the money we want to in our public services. But when we have those difficult decisions, I think that's when the character and the values of the people who are representing us really matter. And, as I said, I grew up in a working class house in Yorkshire. I know the value of the pound in my pocket. I know what it's like to struggle. As opposed to at the moment, we've got a prime minister who, I doubt, well, perhaps he has, but I'm not sure he's ever done a weekly shop in the supermarket. I'm not sure he'd know the value of the pound in his pocket. And the world might look great from a helicopter, but people driving down the roads full of potholes will probably have a different argument.
Okay, very good. But the big thing about it is that, like I said, how everything is going to be paid for. Now, if you're actually voted in, you'll be one of, say, if there is a clean sweep, which is what they're predicting, okay, and there is around 450 new MPs, how are you going to make your mark for Gloucester? Because it's going to be a full house.
Yeah, well, I mean, we never take
How are you going to
anything for
fight the corner
granted.
for, so how are you going to
Sure.
fight the corner for Gloucester when there's so many others going to be doing the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's really important. I think, first thing I'd say is you never take anything for granted. Polls are notoriously misleading. You never know. The only poll that matters is the one that happens when the general election is called, and we have people put their X's in the box, and we count them up at Oxtalls. So that's the only one that I'm really paying any attention to. But it is important. And one of the things I've promised is, no second jobs. No, so I think being an MP for Gloucester is one of the biggest privilege I'll have my entire life. I've never stood for office anywhere else. I've not sought to be an MP for anywhere else. I want to be the MP for Gloucester to represent our city in Parliament, and I won't take a second job. I won't be going on. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. I think we need a trade envoy for Gloucester. We've got a trade envoy for the Far East at the moment, but we need someone whose full-time focus is on Gloucester, and that's the way I'm going to be going about and advocating. And I've already started doing that. So whenever I see the shadow cabinet, I'm always asking them, one, to come to Gloucester. And we saw Angela Rayner obviously coming up just before Christmas. And we every time that I see the shadow cabinet, I am asking them about, okay, this is a fantastic national policy, but what does that mean for Gloucester? Where are we going to get, I want to see more NHS dentists here in Gloucester. What's the plan for that? I want to see the waiting list come down in Gloucester Royal Hospital. How are those national plans going to impact us here? So I'm constantly going to be in the ear of the cabinet if we're lucky enough to be forming the next government. And people, I think see that I will be a tireless advocate for the city. That's what I do for a living. I'm an advocate now, and that's what I'll do if I'm elected. And
Let
I
me
think
just
that's
go
really
back to,
important.
let me just stop you there a second. Let's go back into the Angela Rayner piece, if that's okay, because she was in Gloucester. I'll be honest with you, I would have really liked to have met her, and so would the other media, but there was no invitation for us. We got the press release afterwards, Alex. That was
Sure.
disappointing. I think I even wrote to you and said I'm disappointed we were. Is that moving forward? That's in the past. Now, if Sir Keir Starmer and if other members of the shadow cabinet do pop along, we had Sir Ed Davey, we did have Rishi Sunak, we were given the opportunity to talk to them. Are we going to be offered the same opportunity with your leaders?
Yeah, I'm sure you will be. That was, I think, an oversight from our press team. But we had a number of press there on the day, and I'm sorry that you weren't invited, Mark. I've spoken to the team. I'm sure you'll be getting an invite to the next time we have a visit, because it is really important. And we always send stuff across to you, Mark, because we value the stuff that you're doing and the work you're doing and your readers, because I know how many people read Punchline. I get the emails every day, and I think they're excellent. And so yes, no, don't. We will be having more people down, and I'm sure I'll speak to the press team to make sure you're invited.
Well, that leads us very nice to our readership. Actually, we're just predominantly business to business. So, what would you like to say to the business community? Because look, let's be honest about it. The national living wage has gone up. There's a huge cost. The hospitality trade's in a lot of trouble. A lot of the problems that we have is not just with COVID. I mean, the country's broke from COVID. The country's broke from obviously supporting Ukraine. There's lots of other things going on in the world itself. But what would your message be to the business community?
Sure. Well,
Chief
I think
execs, the MDs there.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, it says this is a change Labour Party. This isn't the Labour Party that was put to the electorate and to businesses in 2019. And one of the things that Rachel Reeves has made very clear is that this Labour Party will be working in partnership with business. There'll be no kind of four-letter word approaches to business like we had under the previous Conservative Prime Minister. I work, my job is to work hand in hand with businesses as a trusted advisor. That's what I've done for a number of years now, and it's something that I'd like to do going forward as the MP. We are putting forward, I think, a very business friendly agenda, pro employee as well, because I don't think that's a zero sum game. But I think there's a way of being pro business and pro employee at the same time. And lots of the reforms we're offering, for example, scrapping business rates. Let's have a look at that one. That's something I know from speaking to small businesses in the city is absolutely crippling them. They are being, walloped with business rates, while giants like Amazon get away with paying very little tax in this country by comparison. One of the things that we've promised to do as part of our plans to bring the city centre back to life is to scrap business rates and support local independent businesses. And I've had meetings with the BID and with the Federation of Small Businesses to listen to the concerns of businesses directly and find out what we can do as a government to be supporting them. Because, and this comes back to the point we made about the physical regeneration of the city, it's all well and good building new buildings, but we've got 70 empty retail units already in our city centre, and we've got to support businesses into the empty units that we've got. And the only way you get successful businesses is by having customers. You have enough money to spend in them. No business survives without customers. But also, as I said, we've got to make sure that we are supporting those businesses in government. So scrapping business rates by targeting the late kind of the late settlement of contracts, by making sure that businesses have the confidence to invest by making longer term decisions. So, for example, one of the things we promised to do as part of these local elections is 2-year settlement deals for local councils. And we're hoping to make that a more longer term commitment as we go on through a Labour government. But by allowing councils to have more certainty over their expenditure over a longer period, that also gives business community confidence to invest in what's going on in the city, because they'll know that the council aren't taking decisions on a 12-monthly basis, but on a more longer term position. So I think it's really important that businesses know, and my emails are always open. If anyone wants to get in touch, I would love to speak to any local business who wants to about the concerns. And I've been lucky to be attending. I was at EDF last week and Safran just before Christmas, speaking to them about their concerns and their hopes for the future.
Well, unfortunately, Alex, we've kind of run out of time with these punchline talks. We're trying to keep it 15 minutes. I'm sure we'll rock up together again very shortly, and all the very best for the future as well. But thanks for watching the punchline talk.
Thank you very much for having me, Mark. I look forward to being back on soon.
Bye.
Bye.